ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We are back. For our 13th installment of A Whole New World podcast. This evening, it will be me and the man who doesn't need what do they say? That doesn't even need an intro, but of course needs an intro. Austin LCG, welcome back.
Hello.
How are you this evening?
I'm good, and I'm so excited to be back and talking about New
I'm
World.
glad to have you back.
Yeah, I know we had messaged each other a little bit about this. Some of the updates that have just come out. I'm not going to spoil anything, but some of the new information, it's super exciting to talk about. Some things controversial.
Definitely one major thing that's controversial in my opinion, but we'll get there. It's definitely a significant change because it's like directly impacts the gameplay for anyone. It's not just PvP. I think PvP will see the greatest impact of this thing. But there's some big news, some big changes. Honestly, this is probably the biggest news week since the big delay. Probably since what's it called? I mean, since the preview. This is probably the biggest update. Yeah. So we're gonna go over quite a bit tonight. It's just me and Austin, just rocking the duo tonight, guys. We're gonna try to cover as much as we can in 90 minutes. We're going to go over the Crafting Overhaul. That's probably the biggest thing to talk about because they did quite a bit to it, and I'm really excited as a crafter. We're going to go over new weapons. There are 2 new weapons. They gave us the Rapier, what was that, 2 weeks ago, I want to say? And then they gave us the Great Axe just a few days ago. It was like, they're just like, surprise, here's the Great Axe too, which we all knew existed. Everyone knew the Great Axe existed. I feel like the Rapier was kind of speculation. But, like, everyone knew the Great Axe existed. And then we're going to go over changes to... They've updated things like faction territory changes. They've got a teaser at the end there. And let's see what else. There's a bunch in this January update, man. They cover so much. Combat, they updated UI. They updated... the changes to settlement towns. Some exciting news coming out of there. They even have some overhead photos, which is kind of sick. Group play experience, and then lastly, we're gonna go over an article that I stumbled upon today. I need to pull that up. Actually, I don't have that. It was an article from Bloomberg talking about Amazon Game Studios. They interviewed, I want to say 30 current and former Amazon Game Studio employees and got a pretty good, it sounds like a relatively in-depth picture of what's going on inside Amazon Game Studios when it comes to culture, process, who's in charge really. Now, in my opinion, a lot of what I wrote is not exciting to me. It doesn't sound good. So I don't know what your first impressions. I know that Austin kind of skimmed over. I read the whole thing. Not to brag. It's a long read. It took a while to read it.
Very long read.
It's a long article. And there's
I got the highlights.
Yeah, there's an article from MMORPG and an article from Kotaku that just do kind of the Cliff Notes version of that Bloomberg article. But they covered kind of the adventure. This article kind of talks about like where Amazon Game Studios even started and when they decided to make a game company, why Lumberyard exists, who's running Amazon Game Studios itself. Like this gentleman, I'm forgetting his name suddenly. Frazzini? Frazzini. Mike Frazzini. Or it might be Frazzini, because it's double Z. Anyways, a lot about that, and a little concerning, though ultimately at the end, it sounds like New World might be their breakthrough. So we'll talk about that at the end. We'll kind of go over some of the highlights of that are worrisome, because I know that a lot of people have some speculation about the way Amazon Game Studios is being ran. And from this article, it sounds like those suspicions might be true. At least the suspicions I've heard from people that I've met from the community. Not yet, Flash Fix It. We still don't have that. Most people anticipate May. People are really expecting basically exactly a year after its initial launch date. So none of that. Obviously, the moment we find out, it'll be huge news. Like, we'll be shouting from the rooftops when we get an official launch day. So this is how we're gonna start. I'm actually gonna we'll start with. Do you want to start with the weapons? Because you were pretty excited about the weapons. If you want to, it's kind of in the order of the article. We can start with the weapons, and I'll actually throw it to you because you seem to be ready to talk about weapons, and I'll cover the crafting because I'm super excited about the crafting.
Yeah. So, let me just jump in, or
yeah, let's do this. You know what we're gonna do first? We're actually gonna play this video. Let's play this video real quick. So this is a video that came out on their Twitter. And for those of you who don't know, they announced the axe relatively recently, like within the last couple weeks, I want to say, right after the rapier. Yep. They did this little story. They've been doing these little Twitter stories, these little funny, like, I don't know what you want to call it, but these little stories. And they finished the story. This is the story. Was like the guy walked into the pub and he got challenged by a marauder challenged this guy, and they get into a duel, and they make this little video of the duel. I hope this doesn't lag. It might lag. But this is a duel of a rapier fighter and a great axe fighter. And it's kind of sweet. Oh my gosh, is that loud? That is very loud and very laggy. Yeah, my computer can't handle it. That's rough. Computer can't handle the video, ladies and gentlemen. So, that's not what I was hoping for.
Yeah, so in the video, it's basically a first look at a great axe dueling a rapier, and it's actually really interesting to see because you're able to see a few different combos and speculate at what's happening. How is grit affected? How is it not? What is the light versus the heavy attack? The rapier definitely has some pretty cool counter mechanics in that video that you'll see. An ability is triggered and the great axe tries to strike it, and he triggers his counter. He also has an evasive maneuver that we'll see with the rapier, where it looks like it's a quick dodge instead of a roll. They kind of almost shift quickly to the side, almost like a small teleport. Not quite.
A dash, would you call it?
Yeah, a quick dash. I mean, it's magical where you'll see it and it looks almost, I think, blue tinted when it dashes.
Mm-hmm.
But basically everyone's kind of speculating what exactly is the rapier able to do. It's defensive as well as a little bit offensive. So one thing that they introduced with the rapier is that it will have bleed effects, and then there's an ability that you can do that if you're creating all these bleed stacks, there is a blade flourish and finish, where you'll burst all of those bleed stacks for high damage.
So there's combo points, basically. You build up stacks, and you do combos, almost like an eviscerate for a rogue in World of Warcraft.
Well, one thing that I would be really curious about with this is how this is played out in PvP or team attacks.
Yeah.
So if you have multiple people using the rapier, whenever you do the flourish and finish to pop all those stacks, does it also count the stacks from the other players that are hitting it with the rapier?
No. I'm going to assume it's your own stacks. But what's it going to look like to have multiple bleed stacks on a target, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still curious about it. I'm curious to see how that plays out, how if a rapier is going to be used more whenever you're solo running around without your team, or if you're wanting something else. But I'm one, as soon as I'm able to play the game,
rapier?
I'm going to definitely try that out. Yeah, I'm
excited.
Go for it. I'm going to try it out. I think
there's two specs. I mean, there's two specs in every weapon: blood and grace. And you were saying, so the blood is kind of the focus on the blood spec is the focus on those bleeds with combos, whereas grace is more of what people think of when they think of someone that jousts or uses a rapier. Someone who's it's about evasion and counterattacking and being very skilled. Being very precise, right? Instead of, making someone bleed, you're very much about counterattacks. You dodge and you strike. You dodge and you strike kind of thing. So I'm excited.
And one thing to definitely keep in mind with all of these weapons, that you don't have to stick to just one of the trees, that you're able to have a little bit in both. And so I'm curious just to I'm probably going to, as soon as I get it, just stare at the tree and click through it and just kind of see exactly what it has to offer, and then kind of decide what's going to be my build. I'm assuming that I might kind of go towards more grace, and then my other weapon might be something that has a little bit more damage, just because I want to be able to quickly counter and stun, and then do some high damage fast.
I'm wondering how it'll pair with the bow. As a bow aficionado, I'm wondering what kind of closing range, almost like a ranger style fighter, but instead of like using daggers or dual swords, you're using this real swift type of thing. So I wonder how, because honestly, the way I want to say, it's one of the bow specs is very much about movement speed and stuff. I want to say it's the marksman spec. Yes, the marksman spec has stuff that, you know, benefits your movement speed and things like that. And I wonder how that'll pair with what obviously is a style that has to do with being agile and mobile. So I wonder how that'll go. If you want to be like a pure damage glass cannon kind of guy, bows from far, you know, rapier up close. I'm stoked.
I'm actually, I again, in the alpha, tried it out, didn't get to fully test everything that I wanted to with it, but I don't think we need to sleep on the musket just yet. I feel like before this game comes out, the musket might get a buff. Just
I think it's going to get some love.
People are using it.
Well, they've talked about how they want to give it some love, which I agree, it needs it.
Yeah. But
probably the least versatile weapon right now. Like, it just seems the weakest.
It takes so much time to get the things you need for it to be effective.
Right.
Like, you have to build the ammo, you have to build the gun, you have to build all these things that I truly think that if it gets the right amount of love, it is going to be the ranged weapon that will have the highest damage output. Or not just ranged weapon, potentially some of the highest damage output with a single shot or single attack. So I think that we shouldn't sleep on the musket just yet. But yeah, so the rapier in the spotlight, really, really excited about it. Even in the article, it has this cool. You see the blade flurry and finish there.
Is that what he's doing?
I also like that. I also like that they're showing you exactly where to find the level 60 legendary rapier quest.
Yeah.
They just say right there. You got to go here to start it.
If you every weapon in the game, guys, has a legendary quest. You can, and they literally just tell you can go on the quest for legendary rapier called Frozen Lament, which sounds dope, by the way. Level 60 adventurers can speak to Ranger Harith in Mountain Rise Outpost, Shattered Mountain. To begin this quest, recover the components needed to create the Frozen Lament, and then deliver them to Ranger Madakai in Mountain Home. I wonder, it'd be cool if you could like craft it. Like, it sounds like you have to bring it to him, and this guy crafts it. And
I wonder if it unlocks the crafting for you once.
I don't know. That'd be sick.
Yeah.
Either way.
So, and Frozen Lament for rapier, I don't know exactly how even status effects might even work, if they're thinking about implementing that a little bit more. But if there is a weapon that has a frozen capability to it to freeze them in place or slow them down.
We want frost magic, AGS. Frost magic, baby.
Yes, definitely. And I think that they're hinting towards the potential of that with a weapon called Frozen Lament. Super, super interesting. But yeah, that's the newest weapon update. If we're going to follow the article, we're going to go over to some crafting system changes. And Jafar, I know how much you absolutely love crafting in this game.
I do.
I'm excited to hear from you for these new updates because yeah, it's awesome. Some big updates.
We're gonna this section of this will probably take up most of the show tonight. So for those of you who don't know, I've never really been into crafting in any games. I'm just not. But when the crafting was announced for this game, I remember when it was originally a survival game, how excited I was about crafting, because obviously in a survival game, crafting is extremely important, because you got to be able to build, you know, structures and weapons and, you know, food, and name this need, you know, firewood, whatever, to survive, right? Maybe, what do you call them, like med kits and such. And so I was really intrigued with the level of crafting, and they kind of took that and they just upped it a notch. Okay, now obviously the game is not a survival game anymore, and it's no longer a sandbox game, so building and stuff no longer is part of the crafting, which to this day I'm still sad about. Please, Amazon, somehow put some sandbox in the game. Please, I want sandbox back. I want it, man. I still have a hope for a future that we move from unincorporated Eternum to a fresh part of Eternum that just isn't settled yet. and we are that frontier. We are the blaze run, the what are they called? The trailblazers who established the new settlements, and we get to build them ourselves. And we go out for the name of our faction. You know, I'm suddenly forgetting our faction.
Covenant.
The Covenant, and we take the land for the Lord, and I need this in my life, AGS. I am still hoping there's a future where what we see now is just established Eternum, because there's so much we don't see on the map that we all know is there. Wink, wink. I've already, maybe. Never mind. I probably shouldn't get. There was some digging that was available you could do in the game files of the preview that if, it was completely available, it was in the game files, and if you did some digging, there was some interesting things you could find. Yeah, and I found them. Moving on. My hope is that we get to be the trailblazers that build the unsettled part of Eternum, or even more. I hope there's a future with that. Moving on. That means there'll be more crafting. What they've done is they've taken the crafting and they've taken to level 11. I mean, what I'm reading is phenomenal. So we're gonna go in depth, guys. I'm gonna read quite a bit, and it's gonna be boring, and we're gonna rant. Now, I don't think they even cover it all here compared to the post that is specifically about crafting, because they did their own freaking. Let's see, they did a freaking post, an entire post, didn't they? Crafting Revisited. Here it is. Yeah. And they really tear it down. I kind of want to read this post instead of this one. I feel like, or maybe this one's just as in-depth and I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's just, I kind of like how they paint it here, right? Like with their vision, our vision. Yeah, I'm going to read from here. If you're just looking for detailed release notes, you can find them here. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're gonna read this. Okay, so Crafting Revisited. This is for the January update. This is the big changes, guys. They overhauled the crafting, and I'm super stoked. Okay. While in alpha testing, we have been making changes to the gathering and crafting system, essential parts of surviving in Eternum. This month's update reflects the full realization of our vision for gathering and crafting a new world. Their vision. I like how they kind of paint that because I want to know what they're thinking. We want crafting and gathering to feel like a meaningful part of life in Eternum from the moment you land on the beach all the way into our end game. We have 3 key pillars that drive our vision. Gathering and crafting needs to have tangible value. Hallelujah. Possibilities should be as broad as they are deep. I agree. I feel like there needs to be depth and width to crafting. Right now, there's just kind of depth. There's no width, right? So, like, when you... Or at least, well, now it's updated. But, like, once you got to Orichalcum swords, you made Orichalcum swords, right? And you crafted Orichalcum swords 70 times. And whatever outcomes you could create, if you created 70 swords, you'd sometimes get so many different affects, which was fun. Perks, right? But, like, you created the sword. The same exact sword 50 times. Where it sounds like now there's actual width to... even the Orichalcum sword or whatever. I mean, not Orichalcum. When you got the Orichalcum swords at the end. But, like, when you get to name this level, there's several outcomes you can even specifically choose for the steel level of weapon crafting, which I'm super stoked for. Eternum is a huge island with materials. I read that. Progression should feel rewarding, not hindering. I agree. A person who picks up a frying pan for the first time won't have the knowledge or skills to make a meal worthy of a governor, unlike the chef who has 20 years experience under their belt. We want players to have results that demonstrate their commitment and time invested in their skills. So, and that's always kind of the way they've gone with crafting, is if, like, you're a master crafter, you have a higher chance of producing better quality items. But it sounds like not that. It sounds like your width increases. Like, the actual item-specific things you can create becomes more available to you as you become a better crafter. Pretty freaking stoked. This is the new UI's spiffy. Not gonna lie, I think there's a more zoomed-in version. No.
Yeah, the new UI was something that I was like, man, it's now way more intuitive.
It's clean. It was awful, so dude. No offense.
It looks super clean.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you,
exactly
AGS.
What it is you want to make.
AGS. I'm gonna be blunt with you. As much as I loved the crafting, I thought the crafting UI was garbage. But I put up with it because it was just fun to craft anyways. Once you got used to it, it's fine. But I thought it was subpar. But it's one of those things where it's like...
I hope that they... I don't remember if it says it or not, but I hope that they address the... I felt like there was this tier that you just rushed to for weapons and gear and stuff, and it wasn't a slow progression. It was like if you had level 48 gear and you came across a level 50...
They got rid of the tier
gear
system.
was just like 10 times. Okay.
They got rid of the tier system in December. In the December update, they got rid of the tier system. Okay. Now items have specific item levels.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, previous changes. We slowly introduced changes to gathering and crafting since November that they didn't tell us about. All leading up to the January update. With this release, the gathering and crafting system you may have experienced during the preview has been overhauled completely. So, it's completely different, guys, from what we experienced. Crafting station appearances. This is exciting. They actually show it right here. I'll go back. We want settlements to show their progression as they grow and develop in November. We added visual improvements to the crafting stations when they are upgraded. So, they actually made it. Here's the thing: a lot of the original designs in New World there was a visual progression to your settlement because you built them, right? And you actually open world sandbox built your settlements and stations and things. So as your settlement got bigger, it looked different. Well, they brought that back specifically to improving your. Where is this? Oh, here we go. Right here. Look at this, guys. Look at this settlement update video. Look at this stages of a... Not settlement, sorry. Of a... I think this is a kitchen. Yeah, this is a kitchen. So there's kitchen 1, kitchen 2, kitchen 3, which is the current kitchen, and kitchen 4. So, like, I thought there were level 5 levels. What do I know? So they actually changed it so that when you walk into a village and you're like, hey, where's the kitchen? You can walk up to it and know exactly what level it is just by looking at it, which is pretty darn exciting because... Kennethan, not listening. Thanks, Kennethan. Love you, brother. I love it. Improved inventory organization. Thank you, because the inventory organization was rough. Based on player feedback, the inventory and storage screens have improved organization so that you can find your items quicker. I don't know what that means. Not in the alpha, and I mean it. I'm not lying this time, because we lied for months last time. I'm not in the alpha. I don't know what necessarily means. I mean, is there a search bar? Are there specific sections in your bags for different types of inventory? I don't know, but I appreciate it because their inventory bags were humongous, and it was easy to lose stuff in your inventory. Addition of resources and materials. To improve the outcomes of your crafted items, we have increased the amount of items available to use in the crafting system. Items with levels associated with them, such as crafting reagents, are now found in level-appropriate areas, making gathering more predictable. So it sounds like they finally really organized the map according to resources, or they organized the resources according to the map based on the level of the area and the content that you are currently doing. So as you level up your crafting or gathering, it will make sense according to where you're located. You know, if you get ahead... it'll be more harder to fall behind or get ahead because it'll flow with your levels. And it sounds like they've increased quite a bit what you can get. They've really expanded on what you can gather. So, yay. Granular unlocks for tracking and skinning and the logging trade skills. Now, before, tracking and skinning was relatively flat. It was weird. Like, you skinned normal stuff until, like... You got to, like, almost endgame zones. It was weird. Like, you could skin anything, and it didn't have much of a difference to it. Same with wood, right? Not until you got to, like, endgame zone, all you did was cut wood, and it was wood. Like, that's kind of how it was. They changed that. A previous version of the tracking and skinning skill didn't feel like it had much meaning until players were somewhere around mid-game. I would say even level, like, mid to upper 40s, almost endgame, right? You know, 50+ zones. We wanted to make an update so that players had consistent feedback on where they were in the skill in relation to their character level and other crafting and gathering abilities. So we added more differentiation to how creatures are unlocked via the tracking and skinning skill. Logging, which had a similar challenge, has been changed in the same way. Leveling up logging will now unlock your ability to collect more types of wood. So they're really giving a progression based on the map for your crafting and gathering. And they changed it so you can't get stuff that you harvest from containers. This is interesting. You can't grab food, wood, whatever from containers. You have to actually gather all of gatherables. So containers now only hold items that can't be harvested from the world. So if you need wood or ore, you're not going to find it in a chest. I actually don't like this. I thought it was kind of cool to sometimes get a nice reward to, like, find, like, a stash of gold or name this, you know, craftable when you'd just beat, like, a mini boss for a quest, right? And, like, they have a chest behind them and you kind of get a nice haul of things. I'm kind of bummed that they got rid of that. Because as a crafter, that helps me. But as a non-crafter, I now have mats, and if I want to get, say I really want a new weapon or a new piece of gear, and I've like, hey, I can go to a crafter and say, hey, I have the mats because I happen to find them, right? Or, and I, you know, you gathered maybe the rest that I didn't have. I kind of wish they'd kept that, but I don't mind, I guess. Like, it's nitpicky for me to say that. Moving on. So those are the big changes when it comes to crafting and gathering. Gathering is going to feel more progressive and flowy to the map, and crafting is going to have way more width. I just made a word up. Width and depth in one word. Width or wepth. It's going to have more width.
Both.
Yes.
Both, really.
Both things. It's going to have more width on top of the depth. There's going to be more options and a much better looking UI that I'm excited about. So those are all the things that are coming to that.
The TLDR of crafting.
Yes.
Is too long, didn't read.
I like to read.
That one, crafting was already amazing.
I loved it.
I loved being able to build things, but they improved the user interface and then also allowed for more options when it comes to crafting and gathering. So the TLDR is crafting was already great, and they 2x'd it. They made it even better. They even made it even more enjoyable.
Oh, you're right. You're right, Katsumushi. That was the previous changes. Now there's more. And look ahead.
To the January.
Wow.
To the January.
I thought I was done.
Yeah.
Materials and resources now display their rarity. I forgot about this stuff. So now there's going to be rarities to items. So there's actually going to be a diversity. They're diversifying so much on what you can gather that there's rarities. So, like, not just weapons and items have rarities, but gatherable materials. One of the changes that goes hand in hand with something we talked about earlier in this post, the addition of new materials, is that there are many resources and materials in the world now, some of which are harder to find than others. So there's rarity, which is pretty freaking cool. Categorical ingredients can be used in recipes. This is kind of neat, actually. In certain recipes, you'll now see that you can use categorical ingredients rather than specific ones. For example, a cooking recipe may call for vegetables rather than specifically carrots, allowing you to use whatever vegetable. I like how they're doing this. I wonder if this is going to make kind of miniature diverse of, maybe there's a variety of even a particular crafted item. I don't know. Mm-hmm. There are more recipes than ever before. Yay. You have new ways to make things. Some items you craft have very specific recipes, while others are flexible with what materials and resources you can use in them. Like you just said with the categorical, that might even come to weapons, right? Like you need to make a hilt, but it doesn't need, you know, I don't know how deep this is going, but it sounds exciting to me, actually. They're very specific, while others are flexible with what materials and resources you can use for them. For example, when crafting a steel sword, you can choose to use a higher tier of rarity of wood or leather components than the recipe calls for. There are even special resources like animal horns and fey iron that can be used in place of other resources if you find them. Using these higher tier or rarity resources will affect the power of the item. So if you've got them, kind of like how before they had crafting modifiers, remember those? Crafting modifiers? Just like some weird things that gave you a chance for a perk. Now it's like if you use particular rare resources as an alternative for the initial base requirement material, you can create better items. Dude, I'm getting excited reading it, man. I remember the first time I read this, I was just like, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, this is it. Like, this is it, bro. And then trade skill progression is changed. So before they said there was an endless cap, though I'm pretty sure the cap was like actually 600, but it was like they called it endless progression. They've changed that. We mentioned earlier the logging and tracking and skinning skills unlocks has been updated in this release. All the trade skill progressions has been refined to cap out at 200, which is still quite a bit, which will bring consistency across the different crafting. So they cap it, but it's still capped really high. So I still think there will be it'll still feel like when it comes to crafters, like people who really craft compared to those who sometimes craft, I feel like the master crafters they will show up in their product, I think. So I'm really stoked about the crafting. It sounds great. I already liked it, and now it sounds special, dude. Name a game that's got crafting on this level. Like, name a game, Austin. I'm asking you. You can't. Okay, he's got no answer, ladies and gentlemen. That's why he didn't answer. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the crafting. I'm super stoked. Go ahead.
I'm excited. One that they dove into all aspects of crafting, like how logging is going to play into it more, and how even the recipes playing into it. One thing that I noticed from the preview was that if you were a cook and you were cooking stuff, it wasn't super important. All you really needed was a few of the health type things, and that's about it. And then you made some of those resistant potions where you can get the corruption off, and that was it. What I'm really hoping is that there's more of a necessity when it comes to cooking. Like, you almost want someone who's somewhat spec'd in to cook in your party or in your group that can give you a few items, or even if you are a cook, being able to sell it to get some extra gold or get some extra things in the marketplace. Just making it more of a necessity in the game, I think is key for those additional recipes and those things. But then I just love, like you're saying, that you can just change up the type of wood. Like, I found this other wood, I'm going to use this, or I found this special component, I'm going to try this out. Love that.
It's like Star Wars Galaxies. Really? Interesting. Be like RuneScape in its prime. I mean, I never played RuneScape, but I'm not gonna say that.
From what I've seen, RuneScape in its prime was incredibly popular. The way that you were able to build even all your gear, everything.
Yeah.
So the way that this is built, I think that crafters is going to be super, super important in this game.
They're definitely trying to make it important. I think it was really important in its original version because of sandbox. It was a sandbox. But then when it became more MMO, that type of crafting kind of became less significant because of what was available out in the world. And now they're like, now we need to make it relevant for this style of game. And they're totally doing that. Look at this cool little tidbit at the end. They didn't talk about this and the other thing. They added new ways to unlock recipes. Artifact recipes will allow players to craft a single item of that recipe. I wonder if there's going to be... People talked about this. What if we could get, like... What if the Spriggan dropped, like, an epic recipe? That, like, instead of the weapon, you had to have, like, an artifact recipe, and maybe even the recipe was tradable, and you'd have to, like, take it to a crafter who was able to craft it, right? And that's how you got it. So crafting became significant in that moment, right?
Yeah.
So, and then the recipe schematics will allow players to permanently unlock a recipe. So, you know, that's kind of sick. Like the Spriggan, you know, name the Spriggan weapon, this Spriggan staff. Like you bring them a piece of the Spriggan bark and the recipe, and a master crafter can make it.
Like, that's what I'm thinking. The legendary items are probably going to have. You're going to have to fight these bigger things, and then
to get their items, you're going
to have to have your logging. Like if you fight the nature Spriggan that's wood and you kill it, you gotta have your logging at 200 in order
exactly. I like that. I like that name.
I love that.
Katsumushi came up with a great name for the staff. Jeremy the Spriggan's left foot, but it's a fire staff. That's what. All right.
What is his right foot do?
Yeah, exactly. His right foot's gonna be the life staff. Yeah. All right, you were about to take on something. So I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to cap that off because that was cool how we've talked about this in the forums before, kind of having a one-off recipe for something really awesome. And it looks like they might be doing that. And then
once you build it, it expends the recipe. You have to find that again in order to build it. But what I'm curious about is that you can just plug in the items, right? Like you can just plug in the things into what you craft. I'm wondering if you write those things down and you just build it without it, what does it build? Like if you just select all those things.
You mean being able to just build random things? Like, hey, I want to craft, I want to put these 5 things together. What would it make?
No, the artifact recipe. So like if you're building some sort of artifact recipe for the sword, some sort of sword, or we'll say the newest one, the rapier. And you make a note of all of those components. Could you not just plug those in and build it, or what would it build? Like, how did they?
I mean, to have a click at all, you gotta have the recipe to click it. Does that make sense? That'd be kind of cool. But you can see what you could make.
Yeah, they said that you can substitute almost everything. So
there is a lot of substitution. They also said so next we're gonna talk really quick about gear. I'll cover that, and if you want to cover what happened with the combat, if you want to start skimming that now, I'm gonna do the gear, and then I'll have you cover the combat, which is the last section. All right.
Okay.
So they've changed something. They've along with crafting, guys. They've actually done a bunch with gear. So they've introduced 100 new named weapons and 50 new named armor pieces. They have new unique name stats. So it sounds like they're not just making orichalcum swords anymore. Instead of there just being perks on the swords. Obviously, they still sounds like there are, and you can make different levels of those swords. But it sounds like they're actually giving real recipes to a specific thing. So if you are looking for a weapon with these specific perks or whatever, not only do you have to try to, like, play the roulette game to get it, there might be a named version that has those. Like, I really want, instead of an orichalcum sword that has these stats, I want, the Great Axe with this name because it has those stats. And you can literally just click out that thing. It sounds like they're really getting down to having meaningful items, not a bunch of the same item with different perks on them. They updated the repair mechanics. Now when an item reaches 0 durability, it will have significantly reduced performance. Half gear score, no perks, but it will still be usable and no longer automatically unequips. So that's interesting. You're not completely left out to dry, I guess, but it still sucks. They introduced repair kit item with 4 tiers. I like this. So you can actually you can make repair kits and give them to people so they can repair their gear instead of needing repair tools. And it's crafted. So that's convenient. So crafters can help people out that don't. Crafters are the ones who kind of have a bunch of repair tools. The way it was set up is you make stuff and you broke it down. You make stuff and you broke it down. And so as a crafter when I was in the alpha, I had repair tools all the time, so I could always repair my gear. But people that didn't craft frequently needed them. So I would give them a bunch of my crappy armor. I would make a bunch of stuff and say, hey, have some of this so you can just break it down and have repairs. Now crafters can make repair kits and give them to people, which I think is a good medium instead of me handing you 17, shields to break down. They changed
that was one thing that the crew I was playing with that they weren't doing very much of the crafting. They were just doing meta leveling and all this stuff. And then when they're wanting to do some PvP, they were like, "Oh, my high weapons! There's no way for me to repair. How do I get repair stuff?"
Yeah, because they were expensive. You need 30 repair pieces.
Yeah, I was full of repair stuff because I had gone down the crafting tree and I had done some things. So being able to build repair kits just to give out to people, or even sell in that marketplace.
Yeah. I remember when I would have 4-digit. I think you could max out at. I don't remember how many repair parts you could max out at, but there was times where I was maxed on repair parts, and people would be like, "Bro, I only have 200." And I make a lot of stuff. Now, they also changed the food mechanics slightly. There are now 2 types of food. There's buff food and recovery food, so they're not the same anymore. Recovery food will provide quick HP recoveries, and buff food will give you buffs, right? They give you long-term slow health recovery. So now you're not eating just for the slow term. You can actually eat to heal up again, which is convenient because before you had to sit there, right? To heal up, you had to have a healer, and were there bandages or health? You had to have you had heal tinctures to heal up. It wasn't you ate food and then quickly healed. It wasn't. They fixed that. So now you can actually heal up with food, but it's different from your buff food. So there's obviously added foods that will buff a variety of attribute combinations. So they've added more types of food buffs. Buffs foods that now persist through death. So you no longer need to reapply your buff foods. Buffs from foods now persist through death. Oh, always? I thought I was saying there were some foods that did. Oh, that would be cool if there was different tiers. Buffs from foods now persist through death, so you no longer have to reapply each time you die. Other buffs are still purged. Remove warding foods. This functionality will be replaced with potions. I agree with that. Crafting and refining foods unlock bonus foods unlock starting at tier 3. So I thought there was gonna be like higher levels of food that had buffs persist through death. I feel like they should do that, where they should have levels of food that don't persist through death, and then like rarer foods because of harder to find materials or potions that do persist through death. But hey, what do I know? Either way, I like buffs that persist through death because I constantly ran out of food. The one thing I didn't get into was cooking. I didn't get into cooking. I got into crafting armor. I got into crafting weapons. I got into crafting potions. I got into crafting gems. I did not get into crafting food. I just didn't. I got into what's it called too?
I went down just
engineering.
to learn because not very many people were doing it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it out and just see what I find. And even as I went down, I was like, it is not worth the time investment. That there was just
it didn't feel like it.
I was like, this is.
I mean, except for being prepared, maybe, right?
Not. It just wasn't worth it.
For food, for cooking.
For cooking. That like as I went further down it, I was trying to find some that gave like additional experience for certain things. I was like, man, this would be super strong. If you eat this food, and it's like additional experience from elites or something. And then you just go farm elites. You just all eat that food, go farm elites, and level quickly. But I couldn't find very much at all. There was some like experience for, you gain experience when you're actually crafting something, so you can grow in crafting a little bit faster. But
so let's talk about some of the changes to combat.
I am very excited about these changes to combat.
Yes, there's one very specific one that I say is relatively controversial. I'm not excited about this change because I thought any way you reduce diversity in the game, I think is a negative, and I think that's what you're doing when you do this. But go ahead, take it away, Austin. Let's talk about the combat. Well, it's at the end. We'll talk about it at the end of the combat section. It's at the bottom.
So first up is the elite enemy system, which is one I'm excited about. So I'm going to go ahead and read it and describe why I'm excited.
Yeah.
We're continuing to build on the system to make elite and champion enemies more challenging and change up their gameplay. All named enemies above level 15 now utilize the elite enemy system. Each elite enemy will have 1 to 3 affixes applied, which change their attacks characteristics depending on their difficulty and level. So grinding through the levels, I felt like, oh, here's just a bear with more health, or here's just
a bear with more health.
With more health. And they do a little bit more, but you knew exactly what they were going to do, how they were going to attack, all those things. So now this new system just brings variety to it. And so I'm super, super excited about that.
Different encounters. Different encounters.
You have something over my face, Jamar.
Oh crap! That showed up on stream. I was changing your volume.
I can lean up here.
No, go ahead. I turned you up a little bit.
So yeah, I'm loving the variety that they're implementing into the elite enemy system, because even if you scroll down in that, you see the big bear fighting. All of its attacks, that thing when I fought that, still felt like just like this is a massive elite bear, but does all the same things.
It felt like you were fighting the same you'd fought, however many times, right?
Yep, definitely. Okay, so then the dynamic mesh scaling, and this is another thing particular to the Bears I wanted to talk about. We've scaled up the visual.
You really like the
model
Bears, man. I'm a Bears fan. Chicago, let's go. Bear down.
It was the Bears were the things that gave me the most struggle in the game. I'll explain why. We've scaled up the visual model of various enemy families and enemies within those families to offer more visual diversity to enemies. Larger enemies will still have larger hitboxes.
Also,
so I felt like the Bears' hitbox was broken.
Like too big or small?
It was in order for me to hit it, like its hitbox was too small. Like I'd have to run up to the side of it, like super close, swinging all the way. What seemed like swinging through it and barely hit it.
Right.
And so just the contact point. So I feel like the model was larger than what the actual hitbox was.
Gotcha.
So that was I didn't particularly like that. So as the bigger enemies are being built into the game and all that, make sure that their hitboxes match how large they are. AI combat updates
some minor changes to
Yeah.
different types of AI, drowned sailors, withered regurgitators, those guys, corrupted swordsmen. They basically gave enemies more
Yep.
more abilities, some grit, some stagger. Like, they actually made them feel like you were fighting something that was more. They feel more threatening, and they feel like they're not just swing, pattern, run, swing. They're like,
Yep.
if you get hit by a specific attack, it might stagger you. If you get this, that, and the other thing. So they're definitely making AI seem smarter and better and different. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there's only so much variety they can give, but the idea is the combat's gonna feel even more dynamic with the against AI, which the game could use more of that.
They're definitely smarter.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also, so I really like this one here too, increase the difficulty of AI when players fight enemies well above their level. So this is so important because what they were doing in the preview was the meta to level was if you could get to a certain area, they allowed the higher levels to do all the damage. You could sit off to the side and just barely shoot it.
Just try to land a shot.
That's all you had to do. So we'll talk about like how to gain experience, but in this particularly, it says enemies get more armor and damage the higher their level is versus the player. Armor buffs begin at 3 levels over the player, and damage buffs begin at 5 levels. Enemies 6 levels higher, then the player will outright kill the player instead of placing players on death's door.
Wow!
So if they're 6 levels over than you and they happen to contact you, you're dead.
You don't get down; you just get killed.
Yeah. Then the player have an increased perception range of plus 10 meters.
Right.
So if enemies are 6 levels or higher, and you're trying to sneak past them, they have plus 10 meters to their perception. They're going to track you down. They're going to find you. Enemies 10 levels or higher or more than the player do not get staggered by the player. So if you...
No more sneaking around high-level zones.
And get out. Yeah, they're just going to take you out and obliterate you. So this helps fix some of the issues that people were doing to just level super fast and weren't actually playing the for real game.
Yeah.
So I actually love that they did that, that they made those changes to it, because it's drastically going to help some of things. And everything that they're doing here and all this stuff, what I'm liking is that it's putting a little bit more of an emphasis on actual questing. That is how you're going to enjoy the game the most. So again, I'll admit it again, in the preview, I was doing the deliveries.
And the portals.
Max level. And then did the grinding up in that one area in the top right of the map where you just killed a bunch of elites.
Yeah.
Just to get max level. I did all that. But when I actually went back and was starting to do the questing and play the actual game, that was what was so enjoyable. And so putting an emphasis there where more people are actually playing the questing, it's just more people are going to enjoy it.
Which brings us to our last part of the combat. I assume that's where you're going, right?
Yeah. Combat system. Reduce the number of weapons a player can equip from 3 to 2.
This is the big change that I think is quite controversial.
Yeah, I'm so surprised that they just put this as a small bullet point.
I know, right?
In this. This drastically changes the dynamics of the game.
Can I rant a moment? Permission to rant?
Yeah, go for it.
So...
Rant away.
So here's my issue. Now, I can understand. Recently, they took away... I can understand why they did this, okay? For a while, people complained that when you used an ability, it cooled down all the ability in that slot among all 3 weapons. So you weren't allowed to use an ability swap and use the ability in that same slot with a different weapon. So you were very much locked to 3 abilities based on cooldowns of whatever ability you used in whatever weapon. There were different cooldowns, so like it could really kind of mess with the flow of a fight. So then, I think it was November when they changed it, so they got rid of universal cooldowns across weapons for a slot. If you used a weapon ability, it was a cooldown for that weapon ability, and if you switch weapons, that slot would be open if that weapon ability hadn't been used, if it wasn't on cooldown. So you'd be able to do some really cool combos. The issue with that obviously was that, and they'd talked about, I remember talking to some people about how they'd tried that in the past in older alphas and it didn't work. and you can do wombo combos and stuff, and it would just be ability spams, and they really want emphasis on skill of being able to just land heavy and light attacks as well, and weave in abilities that cause, great damage. The idea was getting good with light and heavy attacks to be your bread and butter, and your abilities for big swings in a fight, right? If you can land specific abilities, it really gives you an advantage to winning, and if you can string a couple together, you might win or kill quickly. But the idea was that real good fighters utilize their heavy and light properly, and their abilities for big chunk damage, or whatever you needed it for. And when they got rid of that, I feel like maybe 3 weapons to them, having 9 abilities so quickly you could utilize, because there's no cooldown sharing anymore, it was a bit overwhelming, and a bit too much of a tool belt at once. So I think the philosophy behind this was, well, we kind of like this, but we don't like it that much. What if we compromised and brought them down to 2 weapons? So now you still have the ability to make some wombo combos, but you're much more restricted to what you can have, right? So this is going to remove people who want a wombo combo with a sword, shield, bash into, name whatever, what's it called? The arrow spread weapon, right? When you stun them with a shield and you switch and arrow shoot them because they're not moving. And then also having a light staff, right? And being able to jump around. I think then what they just did was, if you want those combos, you can't have the staff. You can't be able to blink around the map and also be able to shield, stun, and one-shot people, right? So that's my philosophy behind it. That I think their philosophy was, But my issue is, why not then fix the underlying mechanics abilities to be able to work in that current scenario, instead of removing the ability of diversifying someone's kit? Because now they're adding more weapons. Before, you could only have so many weapons to beat that 3. Now that there's 3 new weapons, and there's probably more we still know about, specifically the halberd, we're pretty sure there's going to be a pistol, and a one-handed mace. When you reduce that to 2, and there's that many weapons now, it really eliminates the ability to diversify. But, again, it also removes then people who can be jack of all trades. They want you to be somewhat niched, right? They want to give you some sort of role, instead of being able to be equipped for any scenario. So, like I said, I can understand it, but I don't like it. I liked the ability to be a jack of all trades. I just chose what means I did those trades, right? Like, I chose to be ranged. My ranged choices were, X, Y, Z. My melee direct damage was X, Y, Z. And my utility was X, Y, Z, right? And you could be jack of all trades, but how you chose to be, what you chose your slots to be, was up to you. Now it's more of pick your specialization. But there's still a lot of diversity to what that specialization is. You can only do a couple of jobs instead of all of them. So I think it's controversial because it could still really work out. But I just don't like when a game removes any form of diversification, ever. More diversity, in my opinion, will always be better. I'm
actually excited to really try it, to be honest.
I know,
ditto. Lowering it from 3 to 2.
It could really balance things out. It could be a really good way to balance, specifically PvP.
Yeah, because right now when you had 3, everyone was just throwing the light staff
I
as
hated
the 3rd one.
This might be their solution just for that.
By taking that away, and then now you're able to, when you're fighting, you can see the weapon, their secondary weapon they have on their back, so you know what abilities can be triggered. Mm-hmm. I think that would be...
Like, if you're playing a light staff, you're probably not going to be, a damage specialist anymore, because you have the ability to run, and, like, you're probably going to be specialized in magic at that point, right? Like, your other weapon might be a fire staff or a bow, because you can only fight from a distance, right? Because you don't have a sword and shield to protect yourself if someone gets in close. Like, now you have to run and fight from a distance, instead of being like, oh, if someone gets at me, I can sword and shield for a while, or I can blink in, and then if I want, I can just blink out, heal up, and then sword and shield again. Like, it's kind of like, now you're gonna be less effective at all the things, but you'll be effective in one. So, again, I understand the philosophy, and it could still really work out. I don't think it's gonna break the game. I really think it's gonna change the meta of way people's PvP and how people outfit for PvE content when you go in the Spriggan, right? Like, you can't have it all. So...
Yeah, that's true. Hey,
real
quick, Jafar, you still have the thing on my face. Video.
I do?
On the stream.
Oh my gosh. That's been there this whole time? Dude, I thought I got rid of it. Oh my goodness. Really quickly, Deadly Snake. People asked to bring it down to 2, and they listened. I loved it. I will be trying bow and spear. Really? Man, do I miss the alpha forums? They asked for it. First of all, huge. Yep. Something I'm seeing after being in the alpha for, I think it was 3 months. Yeah, it was April through the July, and then the preview. There was a big shift near the end there when, like, New World started to listen to the forums. Like, it really felt that way.
They delayed their entire game because they were listening to the community.
Yeah, and that's what I think the delay was about. The delay was a direct listen. That was like the completion. I'm saying the trend was starting to head that way when near the end there, those last couple months of alpha. But then like the delay was like we are going to listen to our players statement, because like that's a big deal because they did it again. Like that's second delay in recent time. So hearing that doesn't surprise me, Deadly, because I'm starting to see that as a real trend for them, and that's exciting because I feel like this community that's invested in this game so far truly loves it. The amount of people that have been, you saw how big it was on Twitch for during that 300. It was 300,000 people for like 3 days straight. Like it was 300. It was top 5 of Twitch, basically the entire preview. And I truly believe the people that are in the alpha and the people that are excited about this game are passionate about it and think it can be great. And so the input they're giving is like real, genuine input, and Amazon's listening, which is crazy. Like this is something I really hoped Amazon would do, would be listen, and the signs are pointing to they are willing to listen. Because this is another significant change. You're right. This is a kind of a small bullet point. Oh, by the way, it's 2 weapons now. Oh, okay. Wow, yeah, that's
completely.
If I don't, you told me this, guys. I didn't know this was in the notes. Like I was talking to Austin or somebody else in a little private group I have about New World with some content creators that I've been on the show. Basically, everyone that's been on the show. And like someone brought it up, and I was like, wait, what? They did what? Like I didn't even know, because like here it is. Like if you're not paying attention, you didn't catch it. Now I didn't read this actual news article at all, but like it wasn't posted on Twitter. They didn't announce it as like combat changes, right? Like this sounds like a big thing. Excuse me, that I feel like should be mentioned in a relatively.
We talked about way more.
Yeah.
They still also have a few other combat system updates.
The next one I'm excited about.
But some other ones that are pretty important. So players can now move during ranged attack animations.
I'm excited about
exactly where you're at. So I really
Hallelujah.
Like that. Adjusted range attack cancels to ensure they offer much flexibility as the melee attack updates in the December update. Updated grip breaking to make it more apparent to players.
Just like shield breaking.
Triggers a visual reaction.
So
added a new grit break sound effect to better highlight when a player's grit is broken. So for clarity, for grit,
go ahead.
Grit is something that you can use an ability. If you have grit and they attack you, it won't stagger out of that ability. You can finish off that ability.
I'm assuming that's what it is. When you ask me, I don't know if that's truly what it is, but I think that's what it is. That's what I think it means.
So either way, being able to break grit is going to be a good sound effect for you to know, oh, I just broke their grit. Yeah. I'm going to be able to do some other damage, other combos here. I should probably push this fight.
Right. So like when you break someone's shield block, it makes a really loud sound, and you see them kind of stagger. Now, when you break a grit attack, which I believe is basically, I don't know exactly what that will mean, but you'll notice you'll know when it happens, like when you break a block. Go ahead.
Updated combat networking and continuing effort to improve how combat functions. Adjusted hit detection logic to add a brief delay before attack hits are confirmed to better detect hits versus blocks, dodges. Not exactly sure how that will pan out, but a few of the other updates, the grit, the ranged attack.
Yeah, overall it sounds like they're just really smoothing out combat, which we knew in the alpha. Again, this is the type of stuff that I can't tell you how many threads were started on. Combat needs to be more fluid. Like it was, you know what I mean? Like you could write a book on the different forum posts They were basically like, and the feedback when we got to the preview, the amount of freaking posts that came out just about combat being fluid versus choppy, and there was a little too much stagnation with animation locks and dodges and things. And everyone was like, this is a great idea, and the combat like clearly can be good. It just needs to be clean. It just needs to be fluid, because it was a little clunky, just a little bit. And I think by that point, it was better than even when I first joined Alpha. When I first joined Alpha, it was more clunky, and they just keep refining and smoothing out combat, and these changes sound exactly like that. The stuff we're like, yep.
And to continue to balance those things out, the next section, balance. I don't know if we need to spend
We can skip over that, honestly.
Things,
we can literally skip this whole section.
But just know that with all the new weapons, with every weapon that's in there, there's going to be continued balances for these weapons. And even as the game's out, I'm sure that there will be updates and things to the weapons. But I want to throw out there, New World, give some love to the musket. Just saying.
I think a lot of people have been asking the musket to get some love. I'm really stoked seeing.
One.
Yeah, I'm really stoked about just this. It is a small section. Yes, this is controversial, but it still could really work. But this whole little section is purely, you could put too long didn't read, we are smoothing out combat. And we're making it more fluid. I can't wait to see how fluid it looks. Even just what I'm reading right here. Because I know since I've last played, they've already done changes like this basically in every update. There's been some sort of update to, update to the fluidity of combat. So then last but not least, this is pretty exciting stuff right here. You sound like you want to talk about it. You want to talk about it? I was going to talk about it, but you can talk about it if you want.
I wouldn't say this is last but not least. There's a few more things I want to talk about right after that section, but the questing and progression, I am excited about the settlement updates.
Mm-hmm.
The visual variety has been added to specific settlements. Now all settlements have unique layout.
So,
I absolutely love that.
This is
so
huge.
Much.
This is huge, guys.
Because it was so boring to go to the new town and it looks the exact same as this other town that I was just in. And so to have the visual variety of each town, making it unique to that area, is so key to just keep the game fresh as you continue to push the new world.
The level designers.
Crafting stations.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
We already talked about the crafting stations, but yeah.
Yeah. We got that. The updated things. That was the kitchen.
Yeah.
All the way to level 5.
Yeah.
Looks great.
The level designers have clearly been hard at work, because finally every town has a unique look, which everyone was like, why aren't these unique? And I mean, look at this. I don't even know what town this is, but like, look at this freaking huge like watchtower in the middle of town. There's a freaking pirate ship. Remember the one with the pirate ships like up really high? There's a couple like, look at, there's a pirate ship right there. Like, this is another view of the pirate ship. I'm super stoked to see what kind of level design they came up with for these towns, because these aerial shots look great. Like, I'm stoked to finally have different looks. Yeah.
Because it was so boring to finally push through to the new area.
And
it
looked the
leveling,
same.
all that. And you get to the town and you're like, it's the exact same as the town I was just in.
I know exactly where everything is. Yeah, so quest improvements. Yeah, go ahead.
I am so excited about this. The starting experience of the acquisition of Corruption's Bane has had many tweaks and alterations for progression flow.
Mm-hmm.
All existing quests have had their dialogue updated to improve NPC characterization and enhance quest directives. Many zones have restricted their quests for narrative flow and replaced generic looting with new interactable objects. Again, I have been saying, like, questing
have flow.
Needs to be more important. Quest needs some love. Questing needs to be more, and questing needs to be the thing that you level as. And so you've got to increase how the questing is.
Stoked.
And then they made the tweaks right after this to help fix some of those things that people were doing for those metas, for the experience gain, all that thing. So they updated how group experience functions and make it easier to play in a group. So each group has to do at least 15% damage to the creature whenever it's killed.
So not one hit.
You can't just run up and hit all of them as much as you can, and you just use that super weak fire staff, and it just burns
to make hit
the
as
group.
many.
Yeah, that's not going to work anymore. And then they also says I don't want to skip this. Group members will have to satisfy requirements to get credit, performing actions such as damage, heal, block in the last 2 minutes, and being within a certain distance of the killed creature.
Mm-hmm.
And said, noted, range characters, fear not. We picked a distance well outside the range of normal attacks.
I'm wondering how far that is, because I can land an arrow from really far away.
Yeah. But then this next part I thought was really interesting. Adjusting the amount of experiences granted when an enemy is killed by a group. Previously, everyone got full experience. So if you just barely hurt a creature, you didn't do 50% damage, barely hurt it, creature dies, you get 100% full experience from that, no matter if you're in a large group or whatever. Now the amount would be adjusted based on the number of groups and number of players within those groups.
Yep.
So you can no longer grab like 100 people and
no more spamming portals. No more portal
farming. And killing with just a massive group, because you have this massive army. It's going to divide up the experience. It's actually going to be slower if you grabbed a smaller group and went off and did quests together, or went off and did your own thing together.
Yep.
So you want a small group of elite characters around the same level. You're leveling together. Then you go do all those things. And so I actually really, really like that. I think these adjustments specifically for group play help fix a lot of the issues that that people were doing in the preview, as well as just kind of make the game even more enjoyable. That you can't just do the spam fire staff, flame, or meteors coming down, and then you just hope some high levels are in there to kill them. So I think it fixes all that.
This
you
is
actually
some cool
have to play the game.
screenshots.
Who would have thought? You actually got to play the game.
Let's talk about this last little thing that they give us a tease, basically. All right, this last part is probably the thing I'm excited about the most, right? As much as I love the crafting, and I'm really excited about the crafting, there's one thing in New World that I want above all else, and I want that to be territory conquest. And I want territory conquest to have significance, a purpose, a benefit, a detriment. I want it to be like, why do I even own this territory? Why does it matter if my faction controls it, or even if my company controls it? Like, what, does it matter if my faction, or is there even more benefit that my company's actually got the governor in place, not just our faction? So this last thing, adjusted certain values in preparation for an upcoming larger feature that will reward both company members and everyone in the faction that owns a territory with some cool new benefits. Now, they tease it relatively low. They do, I'll be honest, the tease is kind of underwhelming. Like, the way they say it, they just say cool new benefits and stuff. But, I don't know, they say, an upcoming larger feature. So, I'm hoping, I want it to matter that I'm living in, that when I'm in a territory, my faction controls it because I live there, right? Or that it makes sense that I would want to live in a settlement that's controlled by my territory, or by my faction. Like, right now, it truly does not matter who controls what, whatsoever. It's just a pretty color on the map. This zone's nice and yellow, controlled by the Covenant, right? So, the first thing is just the small things they tease. Reduced tax savings for company members in a territory they own. Company members, not faction. Company. So it does matter that your company actually controls it, not just your faction, right? So they do actually make it significant for me and my company to make the effort to get that territory, not just to help my fellow faction company to do it, but us to go get it. Reduced housing price savings for company members in a territory they own by 20 to 20%. Again, company. Reduced gathering bonus for company members. So these three things, the values, adjusted certain values, this is just company based, right? So they tell us, all they tease is the adjusted certain values, right? They don't talk about the upcoming larger change and what benefits besides these values. So obviously, I think they're heading in the direction of territory ownership having significance, but not just on a faction level. Obviously, on a company level, there's some small things they're showing us that just mean you save more money. That's all it's showing, right? You save some money, right? And you gather some more stuff if you're But what's it going to mean on the grand scheme of things for your faction and stuff? I don't know, but they say larger feature. I'm super excited to know what this is. Like tell me now. I don't want to wait for this one. I want to know what that is. Is it going to be next month that they tell us this feature? They've given us something big every month. Guys, the monthly updates have been just what the doctor ordered. I really truly believe that when Amazon Game Studios chose to delay the game, they were making a statement in two ways. We are going to listen to the community, and we're going to communicate with the community. Not only are we going to listen, but we're going to talk back to you guys. And not just the ones in alpha. They're talking to all of us on the outside, because for the first, 2 years of this game development, we had no idea. We were in the dark. And it sucked, because only being in the alpha could get you any information. They're not telling us everything, obviously, which is fine. They don't have to. It's their game. But the fact they are communicating significant amounts of information and giving us on the clock, it's always the 19th through the 21st, basically, right? Every month, it's between the 19th and the 21st of every month, we get a huge, look at that size of this page. Look at all this information they just gave us. New weapon information. Change to the crafting, the overall crafting. They changed combat with NPCs. They told us about new gear. They literally changed the combat for new weapons and fluidity. They changed the freaking new, the way these things change. And they, look at all the information they're giving us each month. And if you go back to the news, this is what every month's update. And this, what's it called? I'm segueing, right? That's what I'm doing, Austin. I'm ranting, but I'm segueing because we're going to get to the article. If you go
I'm loving all those things. I did just notice one extra thing, and I don't know if we touched on it. Maybe we did. I just missed it.
What?
But with crafting, when we were building things in the preview, you built, and you hoped to receive some perks, right?
Right.
You hoped to receive, here's a blue item.
Where are you reading
here's
this?
A purple item. I got some additional perks. If you click on the screenshots and click through, there's a selection for select special resource.
I did go through that.
If you look closely, when you select the special resource, it actually tells you what perk you'll be adding to that item.
Which one is this?
Click again.
Adding a special resource to cause item specific type perk. Well, they always had these. These are the modifiers.
Yeah, I did not see this one in the original one, but see.
These are the same thing though. These still exist. These existed before. They're called crafting modifiers. Okay, as a crafter, I know exactly what these are. Yeah. So
yeah, I
now,
did not know that. I was always just hoping for, I hope I get this perk.
No, so I got good at this even relatively quickly. If you were trying to get specific perks, you had to have modifiers that were tuned to a particular perk. And based on, there were 3 grades. There were 3 levels of each perk modifier. There'd be a lesser, a normal, and a greater chance at the particular perk based on the level of the modifier. So, this is called a pristine animal fang. There's a jagged animal fang, and there's an animal fang, right? So, the jagged animal fang, might have a low chance at the perk, or a lesser level the perk, whereas the animal fang might have a medium, and the pristine will have the best chance. Actually, it's the other way. See how this is green, this is blue, and this is purple? They just made it so it's easier to understand that the animal fang gives me a chance to get critical 1, but it's not a great chance, or whatever. So, no, these existed. They're just making it better.
It was a terrible... Exactly. It did not... explain it in a great way.
I said, the interface and crafting was subpar. They didn't organize it this way. It was much longer, and it was only 2 lanes. But this existed. They're called crafting modifiers. I don't know if they still call them crafting modifiers, but that's what that was. That's what these are. Only 1 special resource may be added, which I'm kind of bummed you can only add 1 still. I wish you could add 2. I always wish you could. They didn't do that, apparently. Still just 1. See, sliver of enchanted earth, shard of enchanted earth, chunk of enchanted earth. Chunk of enchanted earth is going to be the best chance of getting that perk. Okay. But you still have a chance with these 2. So, by the end of the preview, I was making specific weapons with specific abilities. I made, electrified weapons, fiery weapons, and abyssal weapons for my friends. I was just, actually, I was just making them for people, because at the point, everyone else had stopped playing the alpha, and I was like, I have these modifiers. I want to make stuff. So I actually started making weapons that were specifically... I was doing this. Sorry if you didn't know. You're talking to a potential future master crafter here. I gotta know about modifiers. They're still cool, like the way they organize this. Brash. I don't know what that is. Let's take a gander at these. These are new perks. Unstoppable, Brash. Lucky still exists. Mana Infusion? Ooh. Critical. I like the sound of this. Brash? It's got a symbol of what looks like maybe headshots. Unstoppable probably has to do with grit. I'm going to assume is grit. There's only one, though. Shard of Adderstone. There's no other Adderstone levels. Moving on. Not to rain on your parade. Metals. Primary.
I was trying to talk and somehow
whoa.
muted myself.
Oh, is that why you're quiet? Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
Asmodium. What? Whoa. Let's look at this real quick. What? This metal's legendary.
Oh, yeah.
A metal infused with dark magics, spelled with a K. CK. Some say the Prince of Demons wrought his armor from this metal. Who's the Prince of Demons? Whoa. What is the Prince of Demons? Who is the Prince of Demons? Dude, we should go through these. There's some Easter eggs in here. What is... Who's that?
I started clicking through and was looking at all the specs and everything. I was like, this is pretty interesting.
Orichalcum Great Axe made with Asmodium, which... What? This is called Stone Rend. No, that's a hammer. Warrior's Breath.
Yeah.
Flawless Grandmaster's Spear. Opus Blade. Maker's Mark. Renaissance.
We should do a more in-depth deep dive into what we're seeing in these screenshots, but I do want to be able to talk with you about that article that you sent.
Yes, it's already 10:30. Yes.
Before I got to head off, I know we started later.
Yes.
I can't stay on later. So
that's fine.
We'll need to get off here pretty soon.
All right. So, what I was trying to segue into, guys, is how much AGS is starting to listen to the community, or did back in probably July, August when they started listening. Significantly showing us, but not only are they listening, they are talking to us, and they're giving us, I wanted to say, like, look at all these articles every month, you know. Alpha testing resumes. Tales from Eternum. Reekwater, when they told us about Reekwater. Secrets of the Swamp. November, December, January. They're giving us information in a scheduled manner, and it's like every update is a nice big article. Look at how much information they gave us in December. Like, this was a lot about, there's the Great Axe, which, by the way, I'll be completely honest, guys, I didn't do a show for December, and we didn't even go over this. This was stuff I didn't even go over. We didn't do a show on December's update, and I want to apologize, guys. December was so crazy, it just wasn't able to do a show. Wasn't able to. But they're being consistent, which is kind of interesting, because I found this article, and it was written 2 days ago, January 29th. This is on Bloomberg, guys, Bloomberg.com. They ain't no slouch of a website or company, right? And what's been interesting is people's take on Amazon Game Studios from the community that I've noticed is that Amazon Game Studios is being run by company people, right? By Amazon people, not gamers. It's not like a gaming company that's being ran by people who run gaming companies. It's very much being run almost like the Bears being run by Ted Phillips. Ted Phillips is a business guy. He's not a football guy, for those of you who don't get it. So people really criticize the Bears being ran by a person who's not football-minded. He's business-minded. Okay, he's worried about the bottom
MVP
line.
of the stream currently is Bears, apparently.
Yes.
It's been brought up multiple times, Bears.
It's when you mentioned that earlier, I wanted to bring this up. That was going to be my comparison. Is the Bears, people criticize that Ted Phillips is basically in charge of making too many football decisions when he's much too worried about the bottom line, which is making money, right? And making decisions based on just making more money. And people fear that a lot of people, that the person running the show at AGS, specifically the AGS, the game wing of Amazon, is like a business-minded person who's much more worried about the bottom line of making more money for Amazon than producing a really high-quality, fun experience when it comes to the game they're producing. And I stumbled upon this. It came through my Amazon feed through different articles. There was an article out of MMORPG.com as well as Kotaku, and they do a really short kind of like overview of a relatively large article, guys. This is like a 15 to 20 minute read. Like if you want to read this, I strongly recommend. I will post it in the chat because it really gets in depth. They interview, I think they said 30. This story is based on interviews with more than 30 current and former Amazon employees, most of whom spoke under the condition of anonymity, citing fears of litigation of career repercussions. So this is like, this ain't like they talked to a dude, right? Or they, a disgruntled employee or a couple that got fired or whatever. This is like a relatively wide painted picture from people inside AGS. And there's some concerning things in this article, and there's also some encouraging things. But for the most part, it's relatively discouraging, okay? What they talk about is basically, the article talks about the birth of AGS, okay, as a game studio, and how it was created because it was created at the order of Jeff Bezos. For a lot of people joke, like, Bezos has nothing to do with the games and stuff. He's true, he has really nothing to do with what happens in the games, but like Bezos wanted this. This was Jeff Bezos' idea. At least that's what I think I get from it. He wanted to get into the game industry. He really wanted, it to be he thought it was a big money-making opportunity. He thought Amazon could do it with the Amazon way. He took this gentleman by the name of Mike Frazzini, who came out of the book department of Amazon, which is basically where Amazon made its hay. It was being a book-selling company, and that's kind of how they got to being Amazon, was where they started, was selling books. They still sell books. So I think they're the biggest bookseller in the world, okay? And Mike Frazzini is not a game developer. He is a businessman who was a really successful part of the company, and they put him in charge of Amazon Game Studios. And he went out, and they said he was an Amazon lifer who came up in the book section, where he endured himself to be Jeff Bezos as a manager there. So basically, he did so well, he got on Jeff Bezos' good side. And Jeff Bezos, as head of the games division, Frazzini has acquired established development studios and pushed the company to spend nearly $1 billion. He's the one who encouraged them to buy Twitch. That's who Mike Frazzini is. He was the one who said we should do this. And in reality, their desire was actually to make Twitch and their game development company to be the same company. That was the original vision, it sounds like, was like, they double dipped. And we've always been like, they're eventually going to milk this cow, and we've talked about this. There's a desire to make Twitch kind of like a jumping on point to the Amazon Prime service, which has been that way, but also to be it not just for being, watching movies, but also to have perks and access to games. Okay, so they really want to expand and give more reason to subscribe to Amazon Prime. Okay, and the gaming arm of Amazon was meant to add another reason to be on Amazon Prime. So there was it would
be like another game store, like in the same way that they're probably trying to pull from.
They didn't want to be on
Epic
Steam.
Game Store, all that.
They originally didn't want to be on Steam. You know what they said? It was like being on Steam. It would be like the comparison. If I could find this, how do you search? How do you search on a page? Someone Control S, Control F. Find.
Control
Thank you. Steam. Blah, 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 blah. If I can find this really quick, what he called it.
The idea would allow Amazon to avoid paying a 30% sales commission to Steam.
Yeah, it's the most popular storefront for games. They weren't thrilled because Amazon didn't have any big games. They didn't have any games. So, but what his response was. Withholding he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to be on Steam. They said withholding a game from Steam, they argued, is the equivalent of refusing to sell a book on Amazon. Paint that picture. They basically said, you know what we do better than anyone else on the planet? Sell books. If we don't put a game on Steam, it's like you chose not to sell a book on our store. But he didn't want to. And it's kind of honestly ridiculous, but Amazon wants to do everything themselves. So they, again, having the same philosophy, Frazzini pushed for the creation of Lumberyard. So Frazzini kind of basically took the Amazon Game Studios vision and wanted them to be all of their own thing. They wanted to be a place where people could buy and use games. They wanted to be integrated into Amazon's Prime. They wanted to have their own engine. They say for most studios there are only two options. Epic Unreal's engine is Coke. I love how they call this. And Unity Software Inc. is Pepsi. Amazon in effect decided to make an RC Cola. apparently, according to this article, and why this keeps happening, I don't know why. My music keeps pausing. Basically, Amazon Game Studios not having a good time with Lumberyard. So the whole story of Amazon Game Studios so far has been a lot of failure. The name of this article is Amazon can make just about anything except a good video game. Like, dang, dude, that's the headline, guys. And I skipped the whole first beginning because the story is like 5 failed games basically before Amazon, or 4 failed games. A racing game, Crucible, a game that was supposed to be like League of Legends called I forget what it's called, and then a game that was supposed to be like a Crucible that was supposed to be like what's it called? Help me out here.
I think I know what you're talking about. It was on Epic Games Store.
Oh my gosh. No, it's a Blizzard game.
It's a Blizzard game?
Yeah, someone help me here. What's Crucible is supposed to be like? Oh my gosh. Oh boy.
I have no idea. But from what it seems like, you talked about Lumberyard, and they're trying to make a game engine that they could utilize, and it's not working super great. If it was super successful, that would be a huge win for Amazon Game Studios.
Overwatch.
Because now they're using...
Crucible was supposed to be like Overwatch. Yes. So
it was?
Yeah. So these are the games that have fallen through. Like the game that's supposed to be League of Legends was called Nova. They were supposed to make a game like Fortnite called Intensity. They were supposed to make an Amazon Overwatch like Crucible. They've literally had 5 games that just either haven't launched or it was unlaunched. Like they've scrapped a bunch because the vision was it was either as a $1 billion opportunity or was nothing. It basically says every game should be a $1 billion opportunity. They compare it to like being Call of Duty size successful. So like they want to make these huge games, but they're using the Lumberyard, and it talks about how like some of the time there's a little tidbit in here about employees literally are playing Halo while they wait for their games to render on Lumberyard. Like that's frightening to me that New World is being built on this built from the ground up by Amazon engine that's apparently just really slow.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So really what's coming from this article and from skimming through it and kind of seeing some things is that Frazzini was trying to hire some
big names.
Big experts, some big names outside of it, which is so key for him. He knows he doesn't come from game development. So he's trying to pull in people who are in the game development to get the experts in to do all those things. Where I'm kind of seeing is that what's not meshing is that the Amazon processes, the Amazon
way
mesh well.
Yeah.
Does not mesh well with game development. And so that's one thing that as you do this new avenue, this new thing, is to try to figure out, okay, what part of our processes and these things need to change in order for us to build the game that people want. Like the $1 billion ideas is games that people want, not necessarily just mimicking Fortnite, mimicking these other things, mimicking those other, it's like, no, figure out what sort of things you can do differently. What sort of things do you have that others don't? Like, you could build a game that has this tremendous Twitch interaction because you own Twitch. And so there's a side of like, what can you do that's just so different? So, and even like build something that would just blow up and it's this high intense Twitch interaction video game. It could be a for fun thing. It could be, I don't know what it is, but basically what the fault that I'm kind of seeing with Amazon Game Studios is that they weren't willing to make the changes in their normal processes to fit into a game studio process for developing a really high quality game. And I think even this article is calling it out, and these things are even calling it out. And I think that there's hopefully changes happening there too, in the same way that they're listening to the community about the changes that they should make to New World. I hope that they're listening to the community about the changes that
but how they
make even
run
in the processes, about how they run
their company.
Amazon Game Studios. Yep. And if Frazzini is watching us, man, I'm rooting for you.
We want
If
you to
wanna
succeed,
send me an
man.
alpha, if you want to send me an alpha key, I would greatly appreciate it. No, yeah, I'm.
I mean, yeah, Frazzini, if you're listening, man, wouldn't pain me to end up in the alpha once more. I feel like we are people that see something that looks like it potentially could be great, and a company that clearly just hasn't handled games properly, because it sounds like you've got a guy steering the ship that's business minded, not game minded, which it doesn't mean it can't succeed. It just means that maybe he needs to be humble enough to listen to the people who are game minded, because they want to see the game succeed, not compete with Frazzini. They want him to succeed too. We're all here and we want. Yeah. It's not like we don't want good games. Like, nah, we want it to fail. No, I want something fun. Give me something fun, please. Give me a good game.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Amazon Game Studios to, especially with New World. I mean, I was trying to show off the hat. Like I'm down. Like I'm
dude.
For you guys.
Let's do it. Throw on the hat, bro.
I want it to be.
I hang it on the wall next to my computer.
I believe it can be, but right there with you on, like, it's not a bad, like, you hired a really successful, really awesome business guy who made some really amazing decisions. He said, buy Twitch. Trust me, buy Twitch. Gaming's the way of the future.
Less than $1 billion for Twitch was a bargain. That company's a multi-billion-dollar company now.
Yes, and so, but really, what I think the most important thing here is for him to sit back and say, what can we change? Like, what is it that we can do to make sure that we set ourselves up for something that is going to be super successful in this industry? Now, I know Amazon Game Studios, brand new industry, brand new company, game studio, all those things, but I'm rooting for them. I think specifically with New World, the way that they've listened to the community and made the changes to it, and made those adjustments.
I'm encouraged.
There's hope there. But what I really want to emphasize, don't put anything in this game that's pay to win.
I don't think they will.
Now, I've talked with others. A lot of people are concerned. They're like, no, there's going to be something else. Amazon will put something else in there. Just please keep pay to win aspects out of the game.
I agree. Right here, this is it. This is the part. So Jeff Bezos is more of a book guy, but the directive to go into video games came straight from the top. The Amazon CEO indicated he was willing to spend exorbitant sums of money and offer development teams as long as they needed, say, 3 people who worked directly with Bezos. Literally, like I said, this is so cool. Allowing 10,000 people to play in a single game session was given to the new team as a lofty target. 2 projects under the directive became known around the office as the Bezos games. Now, I'm pretty sure those are New World and the MMO that's based on, what's it called? Lord of the Rings. They're calling them the Bezos games. Like, he wanted to do this. This was his idea. And they hired some crazy names, like creator of Portal, Kim Swift, Clint Hocking, director of Far Cry 2. And, like, they only have one left, Smedley. I don't remember what game he worked on, but, like, out of these big names, John Smedley, only one of them remains out of these big lead developers, because they so much clashed with the way Frazzini was running the wing of the company. And it's kind of scary. Like, they go in depth. There's some stuff about bro culture that was negative, the way they, certain women have been treated, like a game company, certain game companies have struggles with bro culture, how Frazzini was just unaware of the difference between in-game content and, like, cutscene level content. Like, he didn't know the difference. They talk about when they would do game reviews, when they would have him play, like, a, when they have him do, they hired Christopher Hartman. He was, published BioShock and Mafia, like, huge names. And these people clashed with Frazzini, and they didn't stick around because he was so worried about bottom lines and big vision, but didn't understand the process and thought behind getting there when it came to games. He only really knew how to do it from a business standpoint. There was some troubles with the early version of the game, that apparently had to do with Native American themes that was racist, and he didn't think so. Like this, like there was not a good relationship between his employees too. After the cancellation of Crucible, an outgoing employee entered the Seattle office to collect personal belongings and found a crass message in big blue letters scrawled on a whiteboard. Fraz is cancer. Orbiting the note was a handful of +1s, meaning other employees walked up and +1'd it like Reddit. Like there's some sort of struggle. I don't know if it's still the case because it looks like New World is like maybe they finally get it right with New World. But like all indications so far is that in reality AGS has not been run well. And that scares me a little because obviously we've seen the delays from New World. At first the big changes from Sandbox to MMO. And we all kind of got really nervous and stuff, and we're like, it's gonna die. We saw Crucible get unreleased and then literally canceled after it had already been released, and they refunded everybody. So we're kind of in this place right now, after reading this article, that AGS has not been run well. It's been ran by a person who doesn't know games. He literally they were talking about, like, when he would test out the game, they would bring him a demo. There'd be, I forget what they were called, but there would be big meetings where you bring... This is just standard procedure with games where you'd have certain deadlines to bring a certain level of demo to like the lead head guy, and they would play it and they would give feedback, and his feedback would be like, why is that color, and that seems fun, and he wouldn't know the difference between gameplay and like in-game cutscenes. Like,
gosh,
yikes guys, yikes. So TLDR, I did read. If you didn't read, this article has me concerned but hopeful, because at the very end it talks about, basically the idea is that maybe New Worlds, when they finally got it right, because there's other areas that Amazon's gone into, specifically like Amazon Prime Video, where, and they talk about this, like making movies and stuff. They did not get movies right at first, and TV and movies, their first TV and films were horrible, but now they literally have Emmy-winning shows and Oscar-winning movies. So, like, maybe Amazon gets it right finally when it comes to games with New World. And according to some of the feedback on the game itself from these people they interviewed, because these are 30 employees, former and current, they're actually pretty encouraged about New World. In conclusion, even though the journey for AGS as a wing and led by Frazzini has been relatively crap so far, and has no idea what he's doing, it sounds like, they might finally be getting it right with New World. And they're kind of basically, we talked about when Crucible shut down, they like allocated a lot of those jobs to New World. Like, they're putting everything in New World now. New World's the game. If Amazon Game Studios is gonna get it right, it's here and now. So, as much as I was nervous and concerned about the terrible record and, like, the series of just fail after fail and, it was bad. It's, guys, read this article. It does not sound good over at AGS. But in conclusion, this might be the one, and the employees are relatively encouraged. They think it's going to be a success, and so does the community. A lot of us do. So, I'm hopeful because from the way the article ends, it sounds like New World's like their get it right game, and seeing the trends. This is why I what's it called? This is why I segued this way. Looking at the trends since the second delay, because the second delay sucked, but since then, it's just all been great communication, listening to the community, and a big just level of transparency, a paradigm shift in transparency. So I think I don't know if Frazzini's changed some things, but clearly they're getting something right now that they just weren't as a games studio. And so I'm encouraged. I would go read this, guys. It's a pretty interesting read. It gives you some in-depth stuff about AGS. Like I'm so glad I found this article before today's show, guys. I read this at my parents' house today. I found this article. I was like, holy crap, we have to talk about this tonight. Because this is where these are people making our game.
Yep. One thing too, just to point out that as he's a businessman, comes from selling books and everything. Mm-hmm. One thing that I just hope he knows and understands is that in an MMORPG, once it release, and I know that we're just waiting for the release date because we want to play this game, but I want to just put it out there. Also releasing a roadmap for some new additional DLC that's going to be coming out. That's going to expand the map. That's going to expand more. It's going to show more. Those sort of things is so key. So I hope that he doesn't think, oh, as soon as this is released, we're good. We're done with the game. We don't have to do anything else.
Yeah. We're done.
That's not the case. No, no. You build a game that's amazing, and you still have people working on it and building it out and building more. And don't do a thing where it's, oh, well, if we do that, then we're just going to release New World 2, and it'll be the next one. It's like, no, this game is set up in a way that can grow way beyond.
They've talked about a 10-year vision.
One of the additional things. Exactly.
They've talked about a 10-year vision.
More of that vision.
I would love to see a roadmap.
What is it going to look like after year 1? What is it going to look like after season 1? What's season 2, season 3, season 4, that sort of thing.
Expansions, big patch additions. Yep. Content patches. Yep. I can't wait. Now that the level of transparency has been notched up to a 10, I really feel like they're that transparent. I almost expect at some point a roadmap. Because, considering how much information they have to catch up, they kept from us for all this time, and they're finally giving us updates and stuff. Once they get out of alpha, instead of alpha updates, I think they'll start giving us a roadmap. Maybe not a full roadmap. Maybe not on the level of, what's it called? Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves is the most transparent roadmap video game I've ever seen in my entire life, dude. The roadmap
I loved it.
For that game is insane. You do a great job, Rare. Rare does an phenomenal... If Amazon Game Studio wants to know what it looks like, to be transparent, and to do give a roadmap, go look at Rare. They do it better than anyone else. I would love to see even half that.
I was in the tech alpha, and I was in the forums on Reddit and on their official forums, and there were so many, I want to say there's probably 3 times that the actual developers and people making the game replied. We're like, that's a great idea. We should add it. Oh wow, yeah. This sounds great. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm talking right with these people. I'm just a normal dude just saying hey, this might be cool if you added this thing. And they're like, I'll talk with them about it. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Are you talking about in the alpha? When you were in the forums? It was
in the technical alpha. Yeah, I was in the forums.
They had pretty cool mods. Some people couldn't stand the mods. There's some people like that one guy on YouTube, I'm blanking his name, who had some really crappy videos that I didn't think were very good, criticizing AGS and the way the forums ran. I didn't have those experiences with the moderators. They were nice to me, and they said things like that, hey, I'm actually passing that specific thing on. I'll update you on what they say. And sometimes they give you a little bit. Sometimes they give you more. Obviously, they can't give you too much. You may be in the alpha, but you're not in the game studio. But they'd be like, you know what? They really liked this idea, or they're planning to do that already, kind of stuff. They actually they were working with the alpha testers. It felt like an interactive setup that I wasn't just there to find things to break, but I was there to help them make a better game. I've never been in an alpha, so I don't really know. I don't have a proxy. That is my proxy. So, but I felt relatively listened to and heard. I agree.
Yeah. Well, Jafar, thank you so much for inviting me and being a part of this. I'm super excited.
I want you on every show.
Was eye-opening.
Yeah, read it, Austin. I know you skimmed it, bro. Read it. It's super in-depth.
I'm going to dive in more in-depth because, I'm rooting for this game so much, which means that I'm going to be rooting for the developers. I hope that as they're making a game that I'm finding so enjoyable, I hope that they're really enjoying the making of this process.
Isn't that the idea, man? Right?
Yeah, I'm for you. I'm behind you. Frazzini, I believe in you. Mm-hmm. Again, you can send my alpha key to my email. I'm part of the creator.
Just plug your email, bro. Do it. Oh, don't do it. Don't do that. You'll get a bunch of emails.
I'm not just saying those things in hopes of getting an alpha key. I really do mean them. So, but big thank you.
If you're watching, Greg, there's a couple of really handsome guys here that would love to be back in the alpha. Just saying, Greg. I don't think you're watching right now. But it'd be cool.
We need to clip that and just send it to him.
Just send it to him.
Clip that.
Somebody clip that, please.
Yep.
I will blast him a tweet.
Clipping it.
Okay, you know what? He'll take care of that. Blast that tweet to Greg. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I'm really looking forward to... I'm still super excited and encouraged. Again, reading this article was a bit concerning. It sounds like it's been a bumpy road for Amazon, but they might be headed towards better, what do they say, better straits or calmer straits? What's the phrase? I don't know. But it looks like they're on course now. It sounds like they're on course. The way the article ended was, hey, they kind of sucked at film and shows. Now look at it. There was a lot of employees say that they're really encouraged about the direction of New World, and I'm really looking forward to what we see from their upcoming Lord of the Rings. I got to start poking the bear on how to get into that alpha, because you know that alpha is probably coming up soon. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry it's been such a long time between episodes of the show. I'll try to make sure there's one next month for the next update, because they've been bringing them out once a month. Guys, I want you to give some hearts in the chat for this gentleman up here. Austin, you just gotta be on every episode. Should we just book him? Should we just do that? We're co-hosts kind of thing. We should just put him in, just sign him to a contract. You gotta be here every episode. All right,
I'll do my best.
I'll do my best. Because I'm glad that because of this game, me and you get to do content together. I remember when I first met you in your stream for church that morning, we met that gentleman who was having a heck of a terrible time of life, and it was like super applicable to the lesson being learned, and me and you invested in that gentleman, and we prayed over him, and I was like, I want to do content with this man. And like, here we are. I find out right before the preview that this guy's even interested in New World. I'm like, bro, I've been doing a podcast for literally like 3 months. What do you mean you're into freaking New World? So I'm just praise God that like we get to do this together, guys, because you're someone who I desperately wanted to do content with. And this game is something we're both into.
I'm having a blast. So
enough kissing his butt. Go ahead. You were gonna say something nice.
I was just saying it truly is an honor, man. I love finding other people that not only enjoy the same games as I do, but have that still Christ-centered heart that want to. I know your heart is to build a positive and encouraging community for people.
Absolutely, a generous community.
And so
big visions.
Yeah,
there.
and I absolutely love that, and so I'm glad that we get to play games together and we get to help grow that together as well. So.
Last but not least, before we go, I gotta plug Hideout. So for those of you guys who don't know, me and Austin are already in a company called Hideout. We will most likely be Covenant. That's what we were in the preview. We'll probably will be. Who knows what happens by the time the game releases. We are currently a Covenant company. If you guys are looking for a company, a home, a team that's looking to take over a Turnham, come join us. Hit that link right there. We already have a Discord. I'm head of recruitment. I don't think Austin's in any level of leadership at all. At least yet. Nope, he's not. Guys, we're just looking for an incredibly cool we have an incredible community that we just want to grow, and so please, if you're looking for a company, check out Hideout. I'd be guilty not to plug that. But that's going to end the show tonight, guys. Thank you for coming for a very late episode. There's a snowstorm in the Midwest, and getting home took forever. And I also appreciate you waiting literally 2 months since the last episode, because we didn't do one in December. Thanks again, Austin, for being my guest host again tonight. Thank you guys for the follows that are the people that have been watching, new people. I see that follow from Levath and MK3. Thanks, guys. We are going to call it a night. It's been your boy Jafar, your boy Austin. It's been a Whole New World podcast. Cut. And thank you. It's just Jawala. Guys, I'm going to do it to an ad. I'm going to let this gentleman go to bed because he probably needs to. I don't know. He said he'd do it. I'm holding him much later. Usually our shows end at like 10 at the latest. We're literally an hour. We're way over. We started almost an hour. We started an hour and 15 minutes late. But I'm going to throw it to an ad, and we're going to get over to my... Guys, stick around. I'm going to do video reactions on YouTube. Every Sunday, I watch videos that my community submits. I do allow people to submit videos on the fly. You have to do it through my Discord. Go to the Discord if you have videos. There's rules to the videos. They have to be family-friendly. I will have mods watch them to make sure that they are family-friendly. Limit of one video on the day of, up to 15 minutes. Otherwise, they'll be watched next week. So I'll put up a 2-minute ad. Austin, you have yourself a good night, brother. I look forward to the next episode, dude. I can't wait. I'm
Yeah,
getting,
I'm excited.
guys. It's gonna be heating up, right? It's got to be heating up, right?
We'll be saying that we're both
in the
in the
alpha.
game.
Yep. Or we're talking about beta dates. I mean, think about it. Next update's February.
Official release dates.
And it's supposed to be, we're thinking Mayish. I mean, we could be getting a beta date in the next 6 weeks maybe. I don't know. We're gonna start heating up. Last year it was April. That's when I started this party. It was April because release was May 27th, so it was basically 2 months in advance. So I'm expecting over the next 2 months we're gonna start getting some beta information, and this show is gonna heat up, guys. We're gonna probably go from it might become an every other day show or every other week show like we did initially when information came out a lot faster.